a timeless pursuit, humanity's everlasting dream of living forever. It's difficult to pinpoint exactly when humans first wondered if they could live forever. Perhaps thousands of years ago, our distant ancestors already felt troubled by the irreversible progression of time and the looming ailments that accompany old age. Historical voices like the ancient Greek poet Homer once decried old age as loathsome, while Shakespeare painted it as a hideous winter. Such descriptions reflect a universal dread of the body's gradual decline. Indeed, many researchers today insist that, with enough scientific breakthroughs, we'll soon be poised to conquer aging entirely. Some even argue that we may be at the threshold of reversing the physiological wear and tear that once appeared unavoidable. Yet, oddly enough, science has yet to conclusively determine exactly why aging occurs. We know it's intimately woven into the fabric of life's cycles. Cells replicate, degrade, and die. However, what triggers these inexorable processes remains somewhat of a mystery. Many researchers look at aging as if it were an illness, one that afflicts every human being in the later chapters of life, turning once vigorous bodies frail and prone to disease. If it is indeed like a disease, might it be curable? A surprising number of scientists believe so. They predict that immortality might be within reach, especially if certain exponential leaps in nanotechnology or stem cell research come to fruition. The allure of eternal life. Google, a tech behemoth at the forefront of cutting-edge innovation, has gone so far as to predict that by 2029, we'll unlock the formula for living indefinitely. Ray Kurzweil, the company's director of engineering, has confidently stated that medical technology will evolve so quickly over the next decade that opting for perpetual youth could become a reality. One main enabler Kurzweil envisions involves nanobots, microscopic robots traveling inside our bodies. These futuristic bots could hunt down infections, purge diseased cells, and prevent the deterioration we typically associate with old age. To comprehend how radical this is, we need only look at the basic concept of medical nanobots. They're essentially minuscule machines that might one day deliver therapeutic substances directly to the diseased spot, avoiding widespread side effects. More advanced versions could theoretically transform molecules within our bodies on the fly, synthesizing the exact drug necessary to halt cell death, block infections, or even regenerate entire organs. Imagine never succumbing to sickness again, because every potential problem is preempted by these watchful nanobots lurking in your bloodstream. Still, not everyone shares such exuberance. A good portion of the scientific community remains skeptical that an organism as complex as a human being could ever circumvent the natural aging process. They highlight a fundamental conundrum. As you boost certain cells in an attempt to preserve youth, you risk empowering malignant cells, like cancer, to proliferate unchecked. Our biology is delicate, and an intervention to fix one issue could easily trigger a worse ailment. Even so, this scientific caution does little to dampen the dreams of those who foresee breakthroughs making forever a genuine choice. Frozen in time. Cryonics as a bet on the future. If biological immortality proves elusive, there is another intriguing route. Cryonics. For decades, cryonics has explored the idea of preserving the recently deceased, or at least their brains, in ultra-cold temperatures. The logic here is straightforward. By halting decay at extremely low temperatures, you place the body in a suspended state, waiting for that day, maybe in a century or more, when advanced medicine can remedy whatever initially caused death. At that point, you'd theoretically reawaken, cured of previous ailments, and potentially live indefinitely thereafter. Despite sounding like science fiction, cryonics has been a legitimate field of study for a surprisingly long time. It contrasts with cryosleep from Hollywood movies, where living people simply sleep away years in stasis. In real-world cryonics, once someone is legally dead, technicians act as quickly as possible to replace the person's bodily fluids with cryoprotectants, then carefully store the individual in a specialized chamber, cooled by liquid nitrogen. Currently, there's no proof you can revive a cryopreserved person, but believers argue that, given the pace of medical progress, tomorrow's scientists may resurrect patients and rectify issues that ended their lives. One prominent cryonics organization, Alcor, established in 1972, encourages potential clients to plan their cryopreservation through life insurance. That way, when the time comes, the cost of indefinite cold storage is covered. The notion of resting in a tank of liquid nitrogen for a century or more is both eerie and fascinating. You'd essentially skip entire eras of human history, only to awaken in a world so advanced it might allow you to live forever. The question is whether our personality, memory, and sense of self would survive intact after such a procedure. Stem cells and organ regeneration. Equally compelling is the explosion in stem cell research. These unique cells, capable of transforming into many tissue types, offer a tantalizing array of medical possibilities, from regenerating damaged hearts to reversing baldness. While the field is still young, each breakthrough points to a future where we might build spare organs on demand, drastically extending human longevity. Some research labs forecast that by the 2040s or 2050s, combining stem cell therapies with advanced genetic manipulations could drastically slow, or perhaps completely halt, the aging process. Others even speculate that individuals frozen today might be revived earlier than 2040 if stem cell science accelerates rapidly. Inside the Cryonics Institute in Michigan, about 2,000 people have already signed up to be cryogenically preserved after death. As of early 2018, 160 patients were being stored in liquid nitrogen. The first human to undergo cryopreservation was Dr. James Bedford, frozen in 1967 and kept in cryo-storage ever since. 50 years on, we still don't know if revival is feasible, but the allure of sleeping through centuries remains too irresistible for many to ignore. Living on and on, do we even want it? Though the marvel of eternal life captivates the mind, another dilemma surfaces. Do we truly want to live forever? If life becomes unbounded, the experiences we deem precious, love, achievement, learning, might transform in unpredictable ways. Plus, spiritual considerations add further complexity. Countless faiths describe an afterlife, replete with either bliss or karmic cycles. Some might fear missing out on these ethereal realms by tethering themselves to an endless biological existence on Earth. Others worry the indefinite extension of the same life could become a burden, especially if one outlives all friends and family who choose not to follow the same path. Extreme cooling, hypothermia, and surgeries of tomorrow. As if cryonics weren't mind-bending enough, modern medicine is already experimenting with forms of extreme cooling in emergency procedures. Surgeons in specialized trauma cases have tried a process called emergency preservation and resuscitation, EPR. With EPR, they drain a critically injured patient's blood and substitute it with an ice-cold saline solution, dropping the body temperature to nearly 50 degrees Celsius. This radical drop slows cellular activity so that organs remain viable without oxygen for a significantly extended window, maybe an hour or two, giving surgeons time to address life-threatening injuries. After repairs, the chilled saline is replaced with the patient's own blood, and the heart is coaxed back to beating. While full-scale tests on humans are still limited, the principle proves the body can survive states far more extreme than once believed possible. Preserving consciousness, the final frontier. One massive obstacle to immortality is the question of consciousness. Even if you keep a body healthy indefinitely, what about the inner you, your memories, emotions, and sense of personal identity? The concept of uploading one's mind into a computer or a synthetic host has enticed imaginative thinkers for decades. The idea goes something like this. Extract or copy your neurons, millions upon millions of them, and replicate their functions with transistors or another computational substrate. Essentially, you'd produce a conscious digital twin of your brain. Proponents claim that with enough computational power, you could shift your consciousness from a failing biological vessel into a sleek, immortal android, or into a virtual environment running on powerful servers. This prospect naturally prompts a torrent of philosophical questions. Would the copy truly be you, or just a digital imitation? If the procedure is gradual, with bits of your brain replaced step by mechanical equivalents, might your sense of self remain continuous throughout the transition? Or would you experience a terrifying moment of death as the original biological tissue stops functioning? Skeptics also argue that you can't simply code emotions, spirit, or creativity, but billions of research dollars have poured into brain mapping, artificial intelligence, and neuroprosthetics, suggesting that at least some innovators are convinced a digital mind is achievable. Multiple lives, multiple bodies. Should brain digitization become a reality, it might pave the way for unimaginable possibilities. You could hop between a variety of synthetic or organic bodies, discarding each host the moment it begins to degrade or face injury. Imagine controlling a state-of-the-art robotic frame for months of adventure, then transplanting your consciousness back into a regenerated biological form whenever you long for real human sensations. In this scenario, the concept of your own body becomes dynamic, fluid, and possibly fleeting. Existential questions and personal choices. Delving deeper, we realize how personal these decisions become. Would you truly choose to leave behind your old, familiar human vessel for a robotic or partly mechanical body? What about the loved ones who don't share your perspective on immortality? Living eternally might also mean witnessing the death of all you hold dear, unless they follow suit. Then there's the question of the afterlife. Many spiritual traditions describe liberation or eternal bliss once freed from bodily confines. Would you risk missing that by becoming immortal here in the physical realm? Despite the layers of complexity, research into prolonging life, be it via nanobots, genetic manipulation, cryonics, or mind uploading, continues to advance at a rapid pace. Perhaps, before the end of this century, we'll see the first glimpses of genuine, medically verified age reversal, or we might watch a pioneer step out of a cryonics pod, bridging the gap from the 20th century to whatever remarkable future lies ahead. It's just as plausible, however, that we'll discover immutable biological barriers that dash our ambitions of everlasting youth, leaving us to accept mortality as an intrinsic facet of human experience. A tomorrow, unwritten. One thing is certain, the questions surrounding immortality force us to re-evaluate nearly everything we cherish, our relationships, beliefs, achievements, and aspirations. If an extended lifetime offers unlimited opportunities to learn or accomplish feats we can't squeeze into our current lifespan, it also demands we confront the implications of a never-ending existence. For many, the promise of indefinite life comes with the uneasy prospect of witnessing too much sorrow, losing perspective, or failing to find meaning in a world where endings no longer exist. As for our current reality, though, no one can escape the eventual end of their physical life with today's proven techniques, but tomorrow's technologies might shatter that limit. So ask yourself, would you truly want to be immortal? Would you trade your natural human body for a mechanical one if it meant you could roam the earth for centuries or even millennia? What if your closest confidants refused, choosing an ordinary lifespan instead? These questions have no definitive answers and stir both fascination and anxiety. Regardless of where you stand, these possibilities hint at a future in which our species might redefine its destiny, where growing old could become an option rather than a certainty, and where traveling far beyond one's birth century might no longer be mere fantasy. Until that day comes, each of us will continue the age-old dance of existence, gleaning whatever wisdom we can from the fleeting hours of our mortal span, uncertain of what vistas science may open next. For now, we watch and wait, perched on the cusp of unprecedented change, grateful, or perhaps uneasy, that such transformations could arrive in our own lifetimes. If and when that day does dawn, humanity will face existential choices unlike any in our history. Will we step boldly into a future of indefinite life, or shy away from the unknown consequences? It's a question that stirs deep debate, blending science, faith, ethics, and personal longing. Meanwhile, each new discovery in cryonics, stem cells, nanotech, and neurology inches us closer toward answering this timeless riddle. Are we forever bound by death, or might we someday transcend it? Until that grand verdict is delivered, by either technology, nature, or something in between, we'll keep pushing boundaries, sharing our visions, and wondering what it might be like to gaze upon an unending horizon of days. If you've ever dreamed of discovering what comes next, the next century may prove beyond your wildest imaginings. Let us know in the comments whether you'd choose immortality if it were offered, and how you'd spend your endless years. If this video sparked your curiosity, remember to subscribe and turn on notifications, because in a world racing toward unprecedented breakthroughs, you'll want to be the first to know when our collective story unfolds in ways once deemed impossible.